Imagine this. A piece of land in the middle of a Siberian river. Just 3 kilometers long and 600 meters wide. Swamp, sand, and a few trees. There are no houses, no roads, no warmth here. In a few weeks, this patch of land will be called the Island of Death. Later on, it will even be called the Island of Cannibals. 6,000 people will end up trapped here without food, tools, or clothes. This isn't some horror movie writer's invention. It's a real, documented page of history that the Soviet authorities tried to erase from people's memory for half a century. The Nazino tragedy of 1933. How could a regular trip for bread in Moscow end in a nightmare on a deserted island in the taiga? And why did the project to develop Siberia turn into a bloody slaughter? Let's take a look at the archives that make your blood run cold. Early 1933. The Soviet Union is actively building a socialist future. But behind the shiny facade of parades, a harsh reality hides: the cities are overcrowded. The authorities introduce a passport system to control the population. And at the same time, a secret plan is being born. The plan belonged to Genrik Yagoda, the head of the OGPU. The idea seemed simple: clear the big cities of undesirable elements, the homeless, beggars, petty speculators, and neglected kids, and send them to settle the empty lands of Siberia. The police got the plan for catching those breaking passport rules. But the system worked like a blind meat grinder. Raids caught everyone indiscriminately. One of the deported, Novozilov, a worker from Moscow, simply went out to buy cigarettes and was grabbed without any papers. Another, a non-party woman, traveling to visit her husband. They were shoved into filthy trains along with hardened criminals and sent thousands of kilometers east. By May 1933, thousands of exhausted deportees had arrived at the transit point in Tomsk. The local authorities were in a panic: they simply had nothing to feed this crowd. Then a fateful decision was made: to load the people onto river barges and drop them on an island near the village of Nazino. Just temporarily hold them there. May 18, 1933. The first barge docked at Nazino Island. 6,220 people got off onto the swampy shore. They were wearing whatever they were caught in on the city streets: light coats, summer dresses, suits. They had no tents, no axes to build shelters. And, worst of all, they didn't have any food at all. On the second day, supplies were finally delivered to the island. But instead of bread, they brought several tons of raw rye flour. There were no bakeries or ovens on the island. When they started handing out the flour, a riot broke out. The guards opened fire on the hungry crowd. In the end, the distribution was assigned to the foreman from among the prisoners themselves, mostly criminals. After getting their handful of flour, people ran to the river. Without any containers, they mixed it into the river water right in their hats, foot wraps, or handfuls and ate this raw mush. Within a day, a dysentery epidemic began. Weakened people froze to death by the fires during the spring Siberian frosts. The island started to become covered with corpses. Physical exhaustion destroyed social norms in a matter of days. The law of the jungle took over the island. Criminals organized real gangs. They patrolled the island, taking clothes, shoes, and gold crowns from the survivors, which they smashed with stones. Those who tried to build rafts from fallen pines were shot by guards from machine gun towers on boats. The island turned into a closed concentration camp without barracks. At the end of May, something happened on the island that forever inscribed Nazino in history under the name of the Island of Cannibals. Desperate hunger pushed people to an extreme step. The case materials preserved the testimony of a resident of a neighboring village, who saw how a young girl from the island was brought to her. The girl's calves were cut off. When asked what happened, she answered, "It was I who was cut off and fried on the island." People began to hunt each other. It was only at the beginning of June that the survivors were finally evacuated from the island. But for most of them, it was too late. Of the more than 6,000 people who were dropped on Nazino, barely 2,000 survived. And even they were so exhausted and sick that they kept dying in other camps. It was a disaster that couldn't be hidden from the local party leadership. In the summer of 1933, the local Communist Party instructor Vasily Velichko decided to conduct his own investigation. He was shocked by what he saw. Velichko wrote a detailed report and sent it personally to Stalin in Moscow. He wasn't afraid to describe in detail all the horrors happening on the island, including the guards looting and cases of cannibalism. This letter had the effect of a bomb going off in the Kremlin. Moscow's reaction was immediate. A commission arrived on the island. An investigation was carried out, and several guards received prison sentences. But the whole story was instantly classified. The large-scale development of Siberia project using special settlers was shut down. Velichko's letter was hidden in the deepest KGB archives, where it stayed until the late 1980s, until human rights activists revealed the truth about the Nazino tragedy to the world. Today, Nazino Island looks like an ordinary patch of land in the middle of the Ob River. Nature has taken its course, hiding the traces of the crime. But this tragedy remains a chilling reminder of what happens when human life is devalued for the sake of the cold numbers of state plans. Remembering this is our duty to those whose voices have forever gone silent in the Siberian taiga.